Hey everybody, this is Heidi from the blog Hands Occupied with another knitting tutorial for you. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to seam a knit flat piece of ribbing into a really easy pair of hand warmers. I want to walk you guys through how to do the seaming to make a pair of bulky roving yarn hand warmers like this. So you'll notice a couple things about what you see on camera here. So you'll notice that this is just a rectangle of 2/1 rib stitch, so that's knit 2, purl 1. And you'll also notice that there are two very long tails at either end of my rectangle here. So looking at my mitten, you'll see that the ribbing is running horizontally. You often see ribbing run vertically this way, but for fun, I just thought I would turn it 90 degrees and have these mittens ribbed the other way. The really nice thing about that is when you go to seam these mittens, you can look at where the ribbing is to line up your stripes of ribbing so that your sewing is kept straight. So this is a pretty basic beginner-friendly pattern. So to do this sewing of our ends together to actually form our hand warmer, what we've got to do is bring the cast on and bind off ends of our rectangle together. And you'll notice that the outside is where there are two knit stitches, two ridges of knit V's facing outward, okay? So I've got a tapestry needle, so a sewing needle with a really big eye, and it's usually a little less sharp than a regular sewing needle. I have one of my long tails of roving threaded onto this guy. And so what we're going to do is called a whip stitch, if you're used to sewing terms, to connect these ends. So all I've got to do is hold these ends together, keeping an eye on those ribbing stitches to make sure they stay lined up so they don't get all crooked on us. And all I've got to do is bring my sewing needle over the top of the stitch I want to work into and underneath the next one. So I'm going over the top here and underneath here, okay? Then I draw that sewing needle through at both of those loops at the same time and tighten it up. But I'm not going crazy tight because this yarn's bulky, so we don't want to like have this seam be insanely tight, okay? Now we're going to keep doing that over and over. So keeping an eye that those ridges are lined up, we bring the sewing needle over the top of the next stitch and up from the bottom into the one across from it and draw it back through. Now I'm going to keep doing that until I reach, taking a look at this guy, I'm going to keep sewing until I have sewn enough that I've reached the base of my thumb. So in this example, I stopped right at the end of the second set of knit rib stitches. So I'm going to do that again on this one so that my little gloves here match. So again, lining up those ridges, sewing over the top and up under the bottom of the next stitch to do my whip stitch. And I'm going to keep going over the top, under the bottom. Still looking good. Things are snug but not too tight. Things are still lined up. I'm going to go over the top, under the bottom, like this. And again, over the top, under the bottom to do my whip stitch. And then I'm going to finish out by sewing my tail to the inside of my mitten. I'm just going to leave it loose for right now and then show you how to do the inside in just a second. But first, our mitten, even though it is sewn to the bottom of our thumb, we need to join the top two ends to make it actually function as a hand warmer. So I've got to thread my tapestry needle once again, and you'll notice I'm twisting the end because I'm working with a roving style yarn. Twisting that helps in the threading process. So we're going to turn our work around, and just like we did before, we're going to line everything up and do some more whip stitches to secure this seam. And since these are hand warmers, I only need to sew this first set of knit stitches together because I don't like a lot of bulk on a hand warmer in this part of my hand because I feel like it just gets in the way and it personally drives me nuts. But if you want to sew a little further so that your hand warmer goes further up your hand, feel free. These are your mittens and not mine. So just like before, we're gonna sew through to get that tail to the inside of our mitten. Then I'm going to turn the whole thing inside out so I can secure these tails and weave in the ends. So now we're looking at the inside of the mitten here. I'm just going to sew a little bit of a knot to make sure that's all secure. And then, because I'm lazy, you could do a duplicate stitch to weave in your end here, working parallel with all of these loops. I can show you what that looks like here. This is the more technically correct way to weave in ends with this duplicate stitch method. And I'll just leave that there. But if you want to be quick and efficient and just done with your super fast hand warmers, you can start using them. I recommend just taking that tail underneath all of those whip stitches you just sewed, because this is roving style yarn, so it likes to stick to itself. Because I'm also using a wool roving, all I did was drew that tail through that seam, and then I quickly weaved in that end, and then I'm all set. I'm going to pop these on my hands so you can really quickly see how the finished hand warmers look. So here is the left one, and here is the right one. So really quick, really cute, bulky hand warmers that you can wear while you knit to keep your hands toasty. And it helps also with things like repetitive stress injuries to keep your hands warm while you work. If you have any comments or questions, don't hesitate to reach out in the comments section and tune in again soon for even more video tutorials.